Welcome to Muddy Math. It's day 7 of the 28-day journey to Phi. I'm so proud of you for showing up. I'd like to give you an activator, something to think about. Check out the pine cone on your screen, and today's focus is about sharing. So I want you to try to come up with some how questions. What are some how questions that you can ask regarding this image of a pine cone? No question is a bad idea. So just get a pencil, get a pen, get a tablet, a phone, a person to talk with, chalkboard, anything. Write down some how questions that you can think of when you look at this pine cone. I think this image is particularly interesting because it has this view of a pine cone versus, most of the photos I see are of this view of a pine cone. What questions can you come up with, starting with the word how, regarding this image? I hope that you had some time to think about a question that would start with the word how regarding this pine cone. Some questions I came up with you can find on www.muddymath.com in the comments section, but I want you to share your questions regarding what questions about how can we ask regarding this image of a pine cone. Well, now that you've activated, let's talk about it. How can I make a scale drawing of this image? So that's the first how question I'm going to answer. On the PDF enhancement, you can see that our how questions for today in terms of what we want to understand are, how can I make a scale drawing? So next, how can a scale drawing help me understand the golden ratio? So check out this pendant. I forgot that I bought this in an art street fair in Baltimore years ago, and I actually gifted this to my husband, so I told him I'm going to wear it, and it's the golden ratio. So I'll link in the in the description below, this former math teacher gone artist. Back to the words we need to know. Ratio, scale, scale drawing, scale factor, proportion, and unit of measure. Those are all really important words in understanding how can a scale drawing help me understand the golden ratio. Okay, how can I best share my ideas? Wow, math? And I have to write and read and talk? Yes, math is such a human subject, and in Jo Boaler's book, Limitless Mind, she explains in great detail how vital a component of communicating and collaborating is in terms of learning mathematics. So this week, we are really focusing on collaboration. So you absolutely need someone to talk to. You need someone to listen to. More importantly, not your dog, because your dog can't talk. Okay, so while they might listen, you can't use your dog because you need to be listening. My how question related to the image of the pine cone is, how can I make a scale drawing, and how can that help me understand more about phi? So what you see in the enhancements is 4 different images of the pine cone, and what I did is I overlaid a grid on top of the image. Now I understand that not all of you have the capability to print something out like this, so let's just practice what it would be like if we were trying to create a scale drawing of this from an actual object in my hand. Okay, so what I want to do is first I want to kind of get some 2-dimensional measurements of my image. So from here to here, that's about the height of my pine cone, and then about the width of my pine cone. So let's go ahead and just make this the unit. So whatever object you're choosing, let's hope that it's something that you could trace on a piece of paper. I think that would be a good idea. So even if you've been researching a tree, grab a leaf or grab a branch, and then if you are not using something in nature that you can hold, if it's living and you want to stay outside, bundle up and go outside and take your sketchbook. But let's do like a 1-to-1 drawing sketch of our object to help us create a scale drawing. So my object is sort of circular by nature from the top down view. Okay? And we're going to call that unit 1 diameter, because that's sort of like the diameter. Diameter means the distance from one side, well, not side of a circle, from one point on a circle through the middle to the other point. So a straight line through the center of a circle, touching 2 points on a circle. That's the diameter. So if that's one diameter and I want to enlarge my pine cone, okay, I can divide it into 4 sections, 4 equal squares. I think squares are important when doing a scale drawing because every square is proportional to every other square. Since they have that relationship, side equals side, you will always have a square as a zoomed in or a zoomed out version of another square. So then I can just make another 2 by 2 square, however big or small that I want. Okay, scale drawings can be enlargements, and so in the case of my pine cone, I'm doing an enlargement. And then if you were doing a whole big tree, you're going to do probably a reduction. So you do a smaller version. In that case, the scale factor will be less than 1. And if I'm doing an enlargement, the scale factor is going to be greater than 1. This scale factor here is 1 to 1. It equals 1. Because that's my estimate of exactly the size of the actual pine cone. Okay, so this is the actual size. Here I'm going to be doing an enlargement. So the scale factor is greater than 1. I hope you guys can see whiteboard. And I'll use black, it might be easier. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is, and this is a big shout out to Rebecca because Rebecca specifically asked in the Google Classroom, I need help with the drawings, and I think asking for help is so important. It's very hard to do. So way to go, Rebecca, for asking for help. Hopefully this is a good first couple starting points, a nice foundation for you, but remember, practice, 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 and ask for feedback. So you have to listen, show the people you're around your sketches and ask for some feedback. What looks proportional? What looks real compared to my object? And what do you think I need to fix? And listen, be a good listener. That's how you grow. So here we go, Rebecca. If you want to take a shell, I know you're using shells at home, so take a shell and sort of trace it to get the general size of your object and then go to something bigger. You can get newspaper, paper towels, any sort of material. You can go to your driveway and get chalk, and you're going to make another 2 by 2 grid using squares. So I see that in my pine cone, I have already counted, there's about 13 scales. So 13 divided by 4 is close to 12 divided by 4. Which is actually 12 plus 1 divided by 4. So 12 over 4, if I think about that, I get 3 and 1/4 left over. So that's 3 1/4, 3.25 scales per section. Okay, so if there's 13 scales around the stem, right, I have my stem, then I need 3 1/4 scales in each section. So let me just do 3 sort of cloud bumps. And then I need 1 more. That gave me 12 scales. So where can I fit in the 12th scale? Well, maybe I can put it here and erase away some of the others and shift them over. Okay, so what you can actually do with your objects, since these are from nature, is draw that 2 by 2 grid on your object. In my case, I can, but remember, we all have different objects here. So do what you can. Be creative. Be curious. Try some things. There's no like negativity here. You might fail, and that's all right, but it's not like me telling you got a 50% on a test. It's you just experimenting and learning. So now I have this, and I can use this sort of object to say, all right, now I see that there's 3 there, so then I have to pop out 1, 2, 3, and a little bit. And I'm just using this sort of scale drawing as a replication of my pine cone. And it doesn't look perfect, right? But I'm just sketching it out. I'm trying to get a feel for it. Okay? So let's move on to our second understand question. I leave you with this for scale drawing, just a taste, okay? We are exploring more math concepts, but more importantly, this week we're preparing to share. We're not preparing anymore. Last week was the preparation. This week we're sharing about what we found. So big shout out to Nick, who had his mom send me a picture of his notes of a tree branch and a pine cone, and Nick said, how do I count the spines? I'm having some trouble figuring out a method to count the scales on the pine cone. He said it was easy to measure the light parts of the branches, but the pine cone gave him some trouble. And it gave me trouble too, so I'm still working through it. And if anybody has any suggestions for Nick about how he could go about counting the pine cones, please comment on muddymath.com on day 7. Awesome. Okay, so we've talked about scale drawing a little bit. It can be an enlargement or a reduction of an actual object or image. Okay, I'm doing a scale drawing. A scale model would be 3-dimensional. Scale is, in this case, we haven't determined the scale yet. So if this is 1 diam, okay, then each of the boxes there is 1, 2, 3, about 3.5 is one box, 4, 5, 6. I don't know, about 6. We'll just say about 6, about 3. So the scale here is that 1 diam equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 diams. Okay, and in that case, we have a scale factor of 6, so that this is 6 times larger than the actual. Okay, so a scale relates to units of measure and says that they're representative of each other. They're not equal, right? 1 diam doesn't really equal 6. They're a different length, but that equal sign in this case is saying it's representing that much. So it's enlarging it. So 6 times bigger, like Cheetos or Cheez-Its, they probably have an enlarged photo. It says like photo enlarged to enhance details or whatever, and make it look more delicious. But so we have scale drawing, scale factors, scale. We'll talk more about these all week long. I have supplemental videos this week as I work on my canvas for creating my actual painting for the pine cone. Okay, so how does this help me see phi? Well, in this overlay, it's not really helping me see phi. It just kind of helped me see the quadrants of the pine cone. What I can do now is maybe recreate the golden rectangle on top of some spirals to see what kind of relationship I can maybe find in the scales of the pine cone. Right? These how questions are really open-ended, so you guys can take them to the extent you want. You might say, I'm going to look for the Fibonacci numbers, or you might say, I'm going to measure it using diams, the unit you make up, or actually using a tape measure and a ruler. You can measure angles. So how can scale drawing help you see the golden ratio? It just gives you a proportional diagram to sort of manipulate, count, measure, draw on, sketch on, things like that. Okay? Now, a proportion is 2 equal fractions, but also scale drawings are proportional, meaning that when I redrew this, these petals weren't all of a sudden like huge while the others were small. So proportional is 2 equivalent fractions, 2 equivalent ratios, but it's also visual, like proportional. You're not going to have something blown out of proportion, right? When one of your friends overreacts, blowing it out of proportion. Okay, so that's that same use of that word. And then finally, unit of measure. I just made up a unit of measure. How cool is that? Like this pine cone. How many pine cones would fill this room? Or if you guys look at, that's better, I bet, huh? All right, I'm learning. How many pine cones would fill your screen? So with the pine cone at this enlargement, how many of these pine cones would fill your screen? What if this unit of measure, what if we were measuring your screen in pine cone faces? Mine would be about 2, right? Now, what if I change the view. Okay, now looking at that top pine cone, or any of them, they're the same one, how many of those pine cones would fill your screen? I see mine would be like 7, 8 by, that's 8, maybe 8 by 16, 8 times 16. Let's do a number talk before you go, and this can be the way we end today. Number talks are so powerful. How many different ways could you do 8 times 16? So that's my estimate for how many little pine cones would fill my screen if my little pine cone was my unit of measure. And let's see, so 8 times 16, 8 times 10 is 80. And then I'm going to break 6 into 5 and 1. So 8 times 5 is 40. So I did 10 times 8 to get 80. And then I have 5 times 8 to get 40. So 80 plus 40 is 120, and then I have 1 8 left over I need to add in, 128. Right? Check my work. 16. Well, let's do 48 and 80, 128. Yeah, I think so. Did you do it the same way I did? Or did you do it some other way? I challenge you to find some friends, ask them how they would do 8 times 16. How many are just using the algorithm? How many are getting creative? How many use their fingers? How many break it up into 10, 5, 1 like I did? Do you break it up in another way? Do you do 8 times 8 to get to 64 and then say, I need 2 64s, and then 60 and 60 is 120, and the 4 and the 4 is 8 and 128. Number talks are a beautiful thing. Thank you for tuning in today. Check on muddymath.com for more supplemental videos this week as I create my actual pine cone. I appreciate your patience as I'm still mastering the live streaming capabilities. I will make sure that my whiteboard is enlarged, but it looks like it's an okay lighting. We're working on that, right? So share your ideas today. Listen. Pick somebody who will be open to listening and non-judgmental. It's very important for collaboration to trust, to be open to criticism, open to feedback, okay? There's no anger here. You're just listening to other people's perspectives about things you've discovered about the golden ratio so far, okay? Bring it. Tomorrow's day 8. Put your fist in the air. Yes, you are amazing. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being a part of a community wherever you are. Reach out to others. Get a buddy to join you on this journey. Do something together. Remember, my creative expression is painting, but yours could be coding. It could be videography. It could be writing a song, writing a poem, planning a workout around the golden ratio. I have a lot of links in the blog this week about some interesting things I found, like Twitter uses the golden ratio for their webpage layout. So how are you applying golden ratio to something you're interested in? Don't feel like you have to do a painting. This is just my example of sharing to you what I am going to do with my golden ratio findings and my pine cone. So Nick, Rebecca, thank you for your collaboration and your sharing your work this week. You've inspired me. Keep the questions flowing. Comment on muddymath.com with any other questions or anything you want me to focus on tomorrow during the live stream. I am so proud of you. I am so inspired by your willingness to do a journey, embark on a journey that doesn't end in a graded test, and you're just free to learn and push against your understandings. Be proud. Signing off. Have a lovely Monday. Go find some phi. And listen. Listen to others. Listen. You have to listen. Be open. Listen.